If you could put on your forecasting hat over the next year or so, do you predict any big changes in e-commerce marketing?
Well, I think that the big changes are going to come from a lot of what we call our emerging markets. This is in places like Nigeria, in the Middle East, Indonesia, non-traditional places where you want to sort of market your product. But these places are growing in what we call mobile commerce, m-commerce.
And I think where people have been a little bit more loose, there's going to be more tightening up. So I think you're probably going to see some shaking out with folks who have been able to get away with managing their business a little bit more loosely. When the economy tightens up, generally you see a shakeout of, I wouldn't call them fly-by-night players, but folks who are less on top of things. And when things tighten up, how and where can you tighten up the business? So I think that's more of a macro thing necessarily than it is e-commerce, but I think it's going to affect all businesses.
I don't think there's anything, immediate, but I do think that e-commerce continues to grow rapidly, with Amazon taking the lion's share, but I think new models like Wish, like Thrive Market, like Holler, I think all these new kind of companies that are approaching it in a different way are going to have tremendous growth.
In the next year or so, I see the e-commerce space, being increasingly mobile, with people having a dramatically stronger preferences for the brands that they know and love. And so basically, for the last 10 or so years, if you were doing Google search and all this stuff, you had a 1 in 10 chance of getting picked. But on mobile, the trend is going away from having like a menu of choices towards platforms, suggesting the actual answer. Like, this is the one that you like. And so I think it'll be increasingly winner take all for brands.
I think the outlook is strong. I think more and more people are moving to the mobile device. People are going to, the initial challenge is for the person to purchase online through an app for the first time. But once they get comfortable with that, and I think the comfort level's rising, I think the generation's getting older that's used to purchasing things online.
From my perspective, I think looking at a lot of the funded startups, so you've got a slew of companies, Gilt and Fab, that sort of didn't really live up to the promise, or their expected valuation. So I think valuations have kind of come down for some of these bigger companies. And that's a good thing because the emphasis was way too much on acquisition and customers as opposed to running a profitable business. So I think going forward, you're going to see a lot stronger companies. Some of the ones that are here, Honest Company, Casper, kind of doing things right in terms of, they're Honest Company, just running like a good, solid business.
In terms of that, the predictions on e-com is it's slowly going to, it's definitely going to overtake retail at some point, but it's going to start with mobile. Don't ever forget about your mobile experience. At Native Commerce, our mantra in every single department is mobile first. So we often forget about that. Again, we forget about how the customer's looking at your stuff. 60% of our traffic coming from mobile. You have to look at it on mobile first.
Text marketing is huge because the open rates are so high. A lot of reports put the open rates at over 95%, whereas email open rates hover around 10% oftentimes.
And I see retailers figuring out that e-commerce is good, but they can't do it in a silo. And I don't think it should be in a silo. So I think a lot more tie-in to physical and online, and then figuring out the right portfolio of how many locations do I need.
And mobile, of course, is, I think, the number one place for people to focus. 84% of customers start their search on their mobile devices. So that means if you have any commerce component whatsoever, mobile is a must-do. Otherwise, you're just not in the consideration set. So people who I'm seeing win in the commerce space are the ones who are getting mobile right.